A police officer is sentenced to death for a murder he maintains he did not commit. As time dwindles, his devoted German shepherd refuses to abandon hope, sensing a truth others miss. Then, just days before the execution, the dog performs an extraordinary act that alters the course of events. But will this astounding revelation arrive too late to save his partner's life? And what dangerous secret has been concealed so thoroughly that only a dog's instincts could reveal it? Please share in the comments below where you're watching from. If you enjoy extraordinary canine stories like this one, remember to subscribe. You won't want to miss future episodes. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in courtroom March 11, 10, casting harsh shadows across Jack Calloway's face. 15 years spent on the Portland police force had taught him to manage his expressions, but even his considerable training couldn't fully hide the tightness in his jaw as he awaited the verdict. His service weapon and badge were absent, substituted by handcuffs that pressed into his wrists. Judge Martinez's gavel broke the heavy silence. Has the jury reached a verdict? The jury forewoman rose, her voice trembling a little as she opened the paper she held. Jack's gaze swept the room with practiced precision. His lawyer, David Walsh, held his pen with such force that his knuckles were pale. District Attorney Peterson's lips curved subtly upward. In the rear, Eva Mercer remained rigidly upright, her expression carefully neutral. She had been his associate for 6 years, yet she might as well have been an unknown. Regarding the case of the state versus Jack Calloway, concerning the charge of first-degree murder, the defendant has been found. The forewoman hesitated, adjusting her voice. Guilty. The pronouncement struck Jack with a palpable force, yet he remained motionless. The courtroom filled with hushed intakes of breath and murmurs. The jury suggests execution by lethal injection. Jack tightened his jaw as his thoughts rapidly reviewed the evidence that had determined his outcome. The murder weapon discovered in his garage was free of fingerprints. The security footage depicted someone of similar stature entering Senator Harrison's residence, and a witness testified to having seen his car parked nearby that night. The evidence appeared impeccable, almost too impeccable. However, he possessed the true account. Outside the courthouse, Bolt awaited his temporary handler. The German shepherd's ears rose at the sound of the substantial doors opening. As Jack emerged in handcuffs, Bolt's entire body stiffened. He gave a sharp bark, straining against his leash so powerfully that Officer Torres nearly lost his balance. "Easy, boy," Torres said, working to keep hold. But Bolt's barking escalated, becoming more panicked. The dog perceived a problem. He felt it with an intuition that surpassed human comprehension. From the courthouse steps, Eva watched, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled her jacket tighter against the October chill. She'd tracked down murderers with Jack, broken up drug rings, survived shootouts. Now she was watching him being taken away as one of the criminals they'd sworn to stop. The evidence had seemed solid when she'd first reviewed it. Too solid, a voice in her head whispered. Across 15 years in law enforcement, she hadn't encountered a case conclude with such precision, each element fitting seamlessly. It resembled a connect-the-dots illustration of culpability, where the connections were made without any questioning of the resulting form. Jack maintained his gaze ahead as they escorted him toward the prisoner transport van, Bolt's escalating barks reverberating against the courthouse walls. The dog's unease broke through Eva's professional composure. Throughout 4 years of service, Bolt had never been mistaken about an individual. Not a single time. As the transport van departed, Bolt's barks softened into subdued, sorrowful whimpers. The German shepherd looked toward Eva, his brown eyes conveying a level of understanding that made her pause. She crouched down next to him, stroking his dense coat. "It's all right, boy," she murmured, primarily to herself rather than to the dog. "Something feels amiss, and we will discover what it is." District Attorney Peterson walked past, his expression conveying his recent victory. "Good work today, Detective Mercer. Justice was served," he said. However, Eva detected something in his delivery. Felt like a warning, or maybe a challenge. She recalled Jack's words from 3 weeks prior, shortly before his arrest. "There's something bigger going on here, Eva. The Harrison case. It's just the surface." She had disregarded his worries then, preoccupied with the increasing evidence against him. Observing Peterson walk away, while Bolt growled quietly beside her, she pondered what her partner had uncovered that warranted framing him for murder. The van vanished around the corner, transporting Jack toward death row. Bolt's posture became rigid, his ears attentive, as if he sensed Eva's hardening determination. She rose, her decision becoming clear. Jack had instructed her that the truth wasn't always as it appeared. The moment had arrived to apply those lessons and uncover the truth surrounding Senator Harrison's death, before time expired for her partner. The metal door of cell 241 closed with a hollow clang that seemed to resonate through Jack's bones. The confined space felt like a tomb. It contained bare concrete walls, a narrow cot with a thin mattress, and a stainless steel/toilet sink combination that had seen better days. A single artificial light buzzed overhead, offering no natural illumination. "Welcome to death row, detective," the guard stated, his voice devoid of feeling. Or, as he added, ex-detective. Jack remained still, positioned in the middle of his cell, his thoughts wrestling with the starkness of his circumstances. The sound of the guard's footsteps diminished as he walked away, leaving Jack solitary, accompanied by the echoes of metal doors, indistinct voices, and his own introspection. Across town, Eva opened the door to her apartment, Bolt following closely. She had intended to provide him with a temporary residence until alternative arrangements were finalized, but the German Shepherd appeared to have his own agenda. He moved restlessly between the door and the window, his nails tapping against the hardwood floor. Frequently, he would pause and whine, looking at Eva with eyes that seemed to convey an urgent message. Eva arranged the case files on her kitchen table, the lamp creating long shadows on the wall. She had examined them a dozen times prior to the trial, but something about Bolt's behavior at the courthouse had ignited a renewed sense of purpose. Her focus initially landed on the murder weapon, a .45 caliber pistol discovered in Jack's garage 3 days following Senator Harrison's death. The ballistics analysis confirmed a perfect match, and the gun had been meticulously cleaned to remove fingerprints. She mused it was almost excessively clean, recalling Jack's insistence on meticulous weapon upkeep. Had he employed it, there would have been traces of gun oil, rather than this pristine condition. Bolt abruptly ceased his pacing, his head turning sharply towards Eva's front door. A low growl emanated from his throat as footsteps neared in the hallway. Eva's hand automatically moved to her service weapon, but the footsteps continued past. Bolt's growl subsided, although his vigilance persisted, his body rigid and prepared. Her phone vibrated. A message from Detective Rodriguez read, "Leave it alone, Mercer. The case is closed." Eva's jaw clenched. She hadn't informed anyone that she was examining the files. The following morning, she went to the evidence lockup, displaying her badge to Officer Chin. "I need to review some items from the Harrison case." Chin seemed uneasy. "That's been sealed by the DA's office. It requires special clearance now." "Since when?" Eva asked. "Orders came down this morning." "Sorry, Eva." Returning to her desk, Eva started examining Harrison's actions prior to his death. The senator had been involved in multiple significant undertakings, but one was particularly noteworthy: a sequence of private discussions regarding the city's upcoming highway development project. Involving millions in contracts, the project had been expedited despite considerable environmental worries. Bolt, lying beneath her desk, suddenly became attentive. His ears rose as Captain Rivera neared. Mercer, Rivera's voice remained quiet but resolute, informed him of a call from the district attorney's office. They expressed concern regarding his recent investigations. "It was simply a matter of finalizing outstanding details, sir. The matters are resolved. Please cease your pursuit." He hesitated, his demeanor relaxing a little. "Avoid complicating the situation unnecessarily." That evening, Eva walked Bolt as they regularly did. The German Shepherd guided her along their known path, but when they neared the location of the new highway construction, he abruptly halted. He sniffed the air, guiding Eva towards a construction trailer. Situated behind it, obscured by scattered materials, she located a damaged piece of paper. Despite the deterioration from mud and water, she discerned a few words: Harrison and payment schedule. With a slight tremor in her hands, Eva photographed the fragment and then placed it in an evidence bag. Bolt remained watchful, his stance stiff, observing the surrounding shadows. A car engine started in the vicinity. Eva noticed a dark sedan driving away, its headlights extinguished. It appeared someone had been observing her. Upon returning home, Eva's computer received an encrypted communication from her contact within the forensics lab. They confirmed a match based on the partial prints she had requested, but noted an anomaly. The file had been altered, requiring a higher level of security clearance that her contact lacked. Eva was preparing to reply when Bolt's growl shattered the silence. She glanced around and saw a small red dot flickering on her wall. It was a laser sight. Without hesitation, she dropped to the floor as her window exploded inward. Glass rained down as Bolt's powerful barks filled the apartment. Eva crawled to her weapon, her heart pounding. It was clear now. She wasn't just chasing a theory anymore. She was getting close to something, and someone was willing to kill to keep it hidden. The early morning fog clung to Eva's shoes as she and Bolt approached the back entrance of the Harrison estate. Fragments of yellow police tape drifted in the breeze, a diminishing echo of the senator's tragic death. She had leveraged her connections to gain access, a final inspection of the property prior to its sale. Bolt proceeded purposefully, his nose actively analyzing the air as he tracked a scent trail perceptible only to him. Eva, experienced with numerous K-9 teams, could immediately sense when a dog had identified something significant. The German Shepherd guided her through the pristine garden, disregarding the clear access points, directly to a somewhat concealed storm cellar. This wasn't present in the initial crime scene photographs, Eva commented, observing the sturdy padlock. A swift scan with her flashlight uncovered another detail, recent scratch marks near the keyhole. Later, at the precinct, Eva was thoroughly reviewing Harrison's financial records when her computer screen abruptly went dark. A notification displayed, "System maintenance required." Access to all files was disrupted. "That's not a coincidence," she murmured to Bolt, who was watchful under her desk. 3 other detectives expressed frustration with their screens. The shutdown affected the entire department. Her disposable phone vibrated. "Meet me at Riverside Park. 1 hour." She recognized the message. I knew Harrison. The voice was male, elderly, and unknown. Eva located her informant on a quiet bench, scattering seed for pigeons. Former Judge Michael Conway retired 3 years ago following 2 decades of service on the bench. A month prior to his passing, Harrison informed me, Conway stated, without raising his gaze from the pigeons. He claimed to have uncovered details regarding the highway project, noting discrepancies in the bidding procedures, shell corporations, and millions of dollars diverted to offshore accounts. I inquired why he hadn't testified during the trial. Conway's hands shook as he tossed more breadcrumbs. He explained that the last individual Harrison shared his concerns with subsequently died in a robbery gone wrong. I then questioned him about his partner. He finally made eye contact. Calloway was getting too close. They needed him removed. A jogger approached. Conway became silent until they passed. Harrison maintained proof. Records, recordings, everything. In his A sudden, sharp sound echoed through the air. Conway lowered his head, a tiny red mark appearing on his forehead. Bolt's warning bark arrived a fraction of a second too late. Eva moved quickly to safety behind a concrete planter as another shot stirred up dirt close to her feet. Bolt remained down low, his training taking over as he directed her towards the nearest exit. They reached her car as police sirens started to sound faintly in the distance. That evening, Eva remained in her apartment, her hands still trembling as she examined her notes. Conway's final words resonated in her mind. Harrison possessed evidence. The storm cellar. It needed to be there. Her phone sounded. Jack's lawyer. They were accelerating the execution date. There were 2 weeks, possibly fewer. Eva's stomach sank. 2 weeks. It wasn't sufficient time. A scrape at her window startled her, but it was merely a tree branch. Then she observed a detail. The limb was positioned too near. It hadn't been that close yesterday. Bolt check, she instructed. The German Shepherd proceeded to the window, his demeanor shifting immediately. A suppressed growl emanated from his chest. Eva cautiously drew back the drape. A compact camera had been affixed to the branch, its lens focused squarely on her desk. The following morning, she returned to the Harrison estate prior to sunrise. Her lock picks compromised the storm cellar lock after 10 fraught minutes. Bolt initiated the descent, his training evident as he swiftly cleared the area. The cellar was bare, containing only a steel filing cabinet and a laptop coated in dust. Eva felt disheartened, but Bolt began nudging a particular point on the floor. His actions were clear. He had located something. A dislodged floorboard exposed a concealed compartment. Within it, a waterproof case held precisely what Conway had described: files, USB drives, and a voice recorder. Eva had just obtained the evidence when Bolt's warning bark broke the quiet. Footsteps sounded from above. Detective Mercer's voice called down, a sound she recognized. "Find anything of note?" A chill went through her. It was Captain Rivera. He continued, "I genuinely hoped you'd be more perceptive than Calloway. That you'd grasp that certain questions are best left unanswered." His flashlight beam sliced through the gloom as he came down the stairs. Eva detected the unmistakable sound of a firearm being prepared. Bolt placed himself between Eva and the looming danger, his body tense and prepared. They were confined below ground with incriminating proof and a compromised senior officer. Regardless of what transpired next, there was no possibility of retreat. Eva's thoughts hurried as Rivera's footsteps echoed down the basement stairs. Her weapon was raised, but eliminating her captain would only confirm Jack's belief in everyone's perception. Bolt stayed completely motionless, anticipating her order. Rivera stated, his voice unusually calm, that Harrison never grasped the larger context. He added that this was similar to Jack and similar to you. A loud crash occurred from above. Bolt had tipped over a metal trash can close to the cellar entrance during their previous search. Rivera reacted immediately, turning toward the sound. Eva took advantage of the opportunity, tackling him as Bolt moved forward, grabbing Rivera's gun hand. The weapon fell down the stairs. Eva fastened Rivera's hands behind his back using restraints. "The larger issue. Are you referring to the highway project fraud?" Rivera chuckled, a grating sound in the poorly lit cellar. "Do you believe this concerns a few $1 million in construction kickbacks?" Harrison uncovered a significantly larger scheme. "Why do you suppose they worked so hard to expedite Jack's conviction?" Before Eva could reply, radio transmissions crackled from above. Rivera's reinforcements were approaching. She took the evidence case and moved further into the cellar. Bolt guided her toward a corroded maintenance tunnel, a means of escape absent from any architectural drawings. They appeared 2 blocks away precisely as police sirens approached the Harrison estate. Eva's disposable phone vibrated. A message arrived from an unidentified sender. "Storage Unit 247, Riverside Rentals, code 5891. Proceed quickly." The storage facility stood empty upon their arrival. Unit 247's lock disengaged, exposing a limited area holding just a laptop and a manila envelope. The laptop activated, displaying a video file already prepared. Senator Harrison's face appeared on the screen, the timestamp indicating 3 days prior to his murder. The message began, "If you are viewing this, I am likely deceased. What I have discovered extends beyond corruption. The highway project serves as a disguise. The construction company, the offshore accounts, they all conceal something significantly greater. Criminal enterprises, including international drug trafficking and weapon shipments, are utilizing our port. Law enforcement, judicial figures, and city officials appear to be complicit. I have gathered evidence implicating everyone, including..." The recording ended unexpectedly. Eva examined the manila envelope, discovering photographs of prominent officials at clandestine gatherings, financial records detailing substantial transfers, and a roster of individuals. Her hands shook as she identified them: judges, politicians, and senior police personnel. Alongside each name, a corresponding number appeared, presumably indicating their share of the undertaking. Bolt's cautionary growl resonated just as the storage unit's door violently shut, casting them into complete darkness. The sound of a padlock securing itself reverberated within the restricted area. "Detective Mercer?" A voice called out from beyond the door. "District Attorney Peterson." A statement followed. "I have to admit, you've been more persistent than we anticipated, but this ends now." The distinct odor of gasoline drifted in from beneath the door. Eva's heart pounded as she listened to liquid being poured near the unit. "It's unfortunate," Peterson said. "A distressed detective, struggling with her partner's conviction, experiences a devastating accident while investigating conspiracy theories. That's the story the newspapers will present." Eva felt along the unit's rear wall, locating what she had observed previously. A maintenance panel weakened by age. As Peterson spoke at length outside, she silently worked it free. The service weapon would be located in the ashes, naturally, along with any evidence you believe you've uncovered. A regrettable conclusion, but unavoidable. The clear sound of a lighter igniting prompted Eva to move. She forced open the panel, entering a confined maintenance corridor. Bolt followed closely as flames erupted behind them. They reached the open air as smoke began pouring from the storage facility. Eva had succeeded in concealing the laptop and key documents within her jacket, though she anticipated Peterson would believe everything had been destroyed. Her phone vibrated. A message arrived from Jack's attorney. The execution date was established: 8 days. Eva glanced at Bolt. His fur soiled from their flight, yet his eyes were watchful and prepared. They possessed the evidence now, sufficient to reveal everything. However, with Jack's execution expedited and dishonest officials present at all levels, time was dwindling. A notification sounded on her disposable phone, another message from an unknown sender. "They are transporting something significant through the port tomorrow night. Pier 23. This is what Harrison lost his life attempting to reveal." Eva stroked Bolt's ears, her determination strengthening. "What do you say, boy? A final opportunity to dismantle them all?" Bolt's firm bark was the response she required. 7 days remained until Jack's scheduled execution. Eva positioned her car near Pier 23, Bolt watchful in the rear seat. The port security cameras had inexplicably stopped functioning 10 minutes prior. Through her binoculars, she observed unmarked trucks maneuvering to the rear of a recently arrived cargo ship. "This is Detective Mercer," she murmured into her encrypted radio. "Activity confirmed at Pier 23. Standing by for federal response." Following her escape from the storage fire, she had reached out to the one person she could still trust, FBI agent Sarah Chun, who had previously collaborated with Jack on a joint task force years ago. The evidence Eva had secured was now safely in federal custody, but more was required. They needed to apprehend the individuals involved. Bolt's quiet growl alerted her to activity on the pier. A recognizable figure emerged from a black SUV, Captain Rivera, having been released on bail just hours ago. He was accompanied by District Attorney Peterson and a man Eva identified from Harrison's photos, Marcus Reynolds, CEO of the construction company at the core of the situation. Her radio transmitted a message: "All units maintain current positions." A sudden, forceful rap on her passenger window startled Eva. She turned to see Peterson there, a gun pointed at her head. "You're becoming a real problem, Detective," he said, his smile chilling in the darkness. "Get out of the car. Both of you." As Eva exited, Bolt following closely, she observed other people stepping out of the shadows. They had been anticipating her. "Your persistence is admirable," Peterson stated, leading them toward the pier. "But did you truly believe we wouldn't be monitoring you? That we didn't anticipate your actions?" Rivera moved closer, manipulating Eva's radio. "Reinforcements from the federal government aren't arriving. That frequency has been compromised for several hours." They were directed to the location where Reynolds was watching the unloading process. Boxes were rapidly moved from the ship to the trucks. "You find it amusing, don't you?" Reynolds commented without looking at Eva. Jack nearly understood everything. The construction project, the port access, everything. He concentrated excessively on Harrison and neglected to scrutinize his own department. "You are correct," Eva responded, her hand moving slowly to her back. "He should have." Bolt's ears twitched at the sound of footsteps on metal overhead. Eva smiled. "However, I did." Gunfire erupted as FBI snipers opened fire from the surrounding cargo containers. The genuine raid team had never employed the radio. That was a diversion intended to elicit their observation. Disorder broke out on the pier. Peterson raised his weapon, but Bolt acted more swiftly, propelling himself at the DA with practiced accuracy. Eva took cover as gunfire began from multiple directions. FBI, everyone on the ground. Through the confusion, Eva noticed Rivera moving toward a vehicle. She gave chase with Bolt close behind as FBI teams took control of the area. Preventing Rivera's escape was crucial. He represented their connection to everyone implicated, extending to the highest echelons. The pursuit led them through a complex arrangement of cargo containers. Rivera was attempting to reach a waiting boat. They had only seconds to prevent him. Bolt, stop him, Eva ordered. The German Shepherd surged forward, a swift display of focused strength, precisely as Rivera arrived at the boat's ladder. Bolt's jaws closed on Rivera's leg, causing him to fall heavily onto the dock. As Eva restrained him, Rivera exclaimed, "You have no idea what you've done." As others learned, they already knew. Eva interrupted, noting the increasing number of FBI vehicles. "We didn't just target you tonight. Teams are engaging with judges, politicians, and police officials throughout the city." It's finished. Her phone vibrated. A message from Agent Chun. "Evidence secured. Proceeding to the governor's office now. Instruct Jack to remain." Eva glanced at her watch. 6 days, 13 hours remained until the execution. For the first time in weeks, she permitted herself a glimmer of hope. A chill ran down her spine, even as Rivera's laughter echoed as she led him away in cuffs. "You really think this is over?" She wondered. There's still time for accidents to happen, especially in prison. 20 hours remained until Jack's execution. Despite the FBI raids and mounting evidence, the governor hadn't signed the stay of execution. Eva paced the prison's administrative office while Bolt sat alert by the door. "Someone's blocking our access to the governor," Agent Chin explained, frustration evident in her voice. "Whenever we approach a resolution, we're being rerouted to less senior personnel. They appear to be delaying action." Eva's phone received a notification. It was an encrypted message from an unidentified sender. "Loading dock, prison kitchen. Midnight. Your partner will not survive until morning." She presented the message to Chun. "They are planning their operation tonight. We cannot initiate a movement of Jack without the necessary approval," Chun cautioned. "If we are incorrect, the consequences will be significant." Eva glanced at her watch. It was 11:45 p.m., and we have exhausted our available time. The prison's loading dock lay in shadows and silence as Eva and Bolt established their concealed location. Using her night vision scope, she identified 3 individuals near the kitchen entrance. One was dressed in a guard's uniform. "Target confirmed," she murmured into her radio. "They're here." The compromised guard unlocked the door, and 2 additional figures entered. Eva identified one by his characteristic limp. Marcus Reynolds himself had arrived to guarantee Jack's silence. "Hold position," Chen's voice crackled in Eva's earpiece. Minutes passed slowly. Eva's heart raced as she pictured them moving through the prison's corridors toward death row. Toward Jack. Suddenly, Bolt's ears twitched. A different sound. A vehicle approaching rapidly from behind. "We've got company," Eva warned, but it was too late. Floodlights burst on, revealing the loading dock. They had entered a trap. Detective Mercer, District Attorney Peterson's voice, resonated through a megaphone. He had secured bail just hours prior. "Did you genuinely believe we'd permit your interference?" Gunfire broke out from several locations. Eva and Bolt took cover behind concrete barriers as bullets ricocheted off metal nearby. Over her radio, she heard Chen's team clashing with hostiles on the opposite side of the prison. "Chun is dividing our forces. Reynolds is still moving toward Jack." Chun shouted back over the sound of gunfire, "Little busy here." Eva looked at Bolt and saw the same determination in his eyes that she felt. "Ready, boy?" The German Shepherd's muscles tensed in response. They moved as one, Eva providing covering fire while Bolt charged forward, a focused missile of fur and fury. He crashed into the nearest gunman, creating the opening they needed. They sprinted for the kitchen entrance, bullets tracking their path. Within, they detected the sound of footsteps resonating along the corridor leading to death row. A contest was unfolding, and failure was not an option. The execution chamber awaited at the corridor's conclusion. This time, there would be no further opportunities. 2 months later, Jack Calloway stood in the morning sunlight outside the courthouse, Bolt positioned beside him. The press conference had just concluded. The investigation revealed a sprawling corruption scheme involving 37 indictments, including 2 judges, the district attorney, and multiple high-ranking police officials. The corruption network that had nearly cost Jack his life was finally exposed. Eva observed from the sidelines as Jack knelt to ruffle Bolt's fur. The German shepherd's tail wagged with unrestrained joy, a stark contrast to his desperate barks on that fateful day of the conviction. Some attributed their discovery of the truth to mere luck, but Eva knew better. Occasionally, the most dependable evaluator of character walked on 4 legs. If you found this story as remarkable as we did, please share it with fellow K9 and true crime enthusiasts. What moment kept you captivated? Let us know in the comments below. We're also interested to know where in the world you are watching this compelling story of loyalty and justice from. Share your location in the comments. Ring that notification bell to ensure you never miss an upload. For more amazing K9 cases, please view our latest videos now. Until next time, remember, sometimes the biggest heroes have 4 paws and a badge. The tracking dog abruptly halted at the forest's boundary, his fur bristling and a low growl emanating from his chest. "Shadow, what is it?" Sergeant Morgan inquired, securing her hold on the leash. Shortly after, they located the old house situated deep within the woods, a place where no house ought to exist, but what they found inside instilled a chilling dread. What precisely did they unearth in that neglected location? Please subscribe and leave a comment below, letting us know your location. Let's get started. Kate Morgan was loading equipment into her department SUV as dawn approached. She watched with concern as Shadow, her Belgian Malinois partner, paced anxiously beside the vehicle. Usually the dog would wait calmly during preparations, but today his strong body stayed rigid, shifting between gentle movements and focused looks at the nearby forest. At 34, Sergeant Morgan had become Pinewood County's leading search expert. Shadow, possessing his advanced certification and abilities in tracking and cadaver detection, had made them the department's preferred team for missing persons cases. The call had arrived after midnight. Jason Reeves, age 27, was missing after failing to return from his day hike on Blackwater Ridge Trail. The first search team found no sign of him in the darkness. Sheriff Donovan arrived with the rest of the team, his face showing worry. "Morning, Kate. The weather report indicates rain by afternoon. We have roughly 6 hours before conditions worsen." Kate nodded, making sure her equipment was secure. "We'll find him." Donovan observed the dog's agitated state. "What's got Shadow so worked up?" he asked. "I'm not sure," she replied. "He has been like this since they arrived." She scratched behind Shadow's ears. "Focus up, partner." But as the team gathered for briefing, Kate couldn't shake the feeling that Shadow's agitation wasn't merely pre-search excitement. In their 3 years together, she learned to read his signals, and this behavior felt different, almost like a warning. Blackwater Ridge stretched across the northeastern corner of Pinewood County like a jagged spine, dense forests climbing into mist-shrouded peaks. The search team gathered at the trailhead, where Jason Reeves's blue Subaru was parked. Kate swiftly organized the team while unloading Shadow. Deputy Torres and Chun would take the South Fork. Harrison and Lopez were to check the ravine. The sheriff and I would follow Shadow on the main trail. Kate presented Shadow with Jason's navy fleece from a sealed bag. The Malinois inhaled deeply, transitioning to work mode, though Kate observed the remaining tension in his posture. She firmly instructed, securing his tracking lead. After 20 minutes near a small footbridge, Shadow abruptly halted, his body becoming rigid as he analyzed the air instead of the ground. "What's he onto?" Donovan inquired. Rather than proceeding across the bridge, Shadow abruptly turned to the right, drawing Kate towards an embankment. 50 yards away was a forest green backpack, swiftly recognized as Jason's, containing his wallet and phone. The trail continued in that direction. Donovan indicated along the creek bed, where crushed plants indicated recent activity. Shadow hesitated to proceed, stubbornly pulling toward the apparently untouched forest. Shadow, find, Kate repeated, attempting to guide him. The Malinois emitted a whine, pulling with unusual force, a behavior Kate had never observed during a search. Your dog seems disoriented, Deputy Torres commented. The path is clearly alongside the water. Kate observed Shadow's concentrated gaze. I'm going with Shadow. A sense of unease settled over him regarding the creek trail. We should split up, Torres proposed. No, Kate stated decisively. If someone is intentionally leading us astray, separating could create a risk. She addressed Donovan. Sheriff, I request your confidence. 3 years with Shadow indicate we must follow his guidance. Donovan acknowledged. We will follow the dog. Torres, please note this location and communicate with the other teams. We will keep in touch via radio. Shadow took the lead as Kate and Donovan advanced further into the forest, moving away from marked trails and into a wilderness seldom visited by recreational hikers. The ground became more challenging the farther they strayed from known paths. Thick pine and old fir trees formed a natural maze, their large trunks limiting visibility to less than 20 yards. We're traveling northwest now, Donovan observed, consulting his GPS. There are no recorded trails in this area. This was old-growth forest, untouched by logging. After 30 minutes of consistent hiking, Shadow halted at the foot of a sharp ridge, his ears twitching as he analyzed the scents carried on the breeze. Suddenly, he bolted forward with such momentum that Kate briefly stumbled. Shadow, easy, she called, reasserting control of the lead. The dog had stopped at a seemingly neglected path, running across the ridge face. Service road, Donovan stated, bending down to inspect the packed soil hidden by the plants. An old one, not listed on any maps we have now. As they proceeded down the neglected service road, Kate experienced a rising sense of disquiet. The woods appeared to press in on them, the overhead branches becoming denser until only infrequent beams of light reached the ground. This section was harvested in the 1920s, Donovan clarified, ending the quiet. Company archives document a minor worker settlement, consisting of impermanent buildings intended to be vacated upon the end of operations. Shadow guided them around a pronounced curve in the aged road and abruptly halted, his posture tense with focus. Kate tracked his line of sight and felt her breathing shorten. Situated within a compact clearing was a 2-story house, its time-worn, clapboard facade darkened by age and moisture. Rather than the crumbling ruin one could anticipate following a century of abandonment, the structure seemed mostly complete, with some sagging areas, dark and empty windows, but fundamentally stable. That's not a logging camp shack, Kate stated softly. No, Donovan concurred, his hand moving naturally to his sidearm. That's someone's homestead, and it shouldn't be here. The house stood before them, its aged exterior showing the marks of many seasons. As she approached, Kate observed details previously hidden from afar. Intricate Victorian-style trim around the eaves, though much of it was decayed, and vestiges of what had undoubtedly been a graceful wraparound porch, now partially collapsed at one corner. Sheriff's Department, she announced. We are conducting a search for a missing hiker. Anyone inside, please identify yourself. Only silence responded. The forest sounds appeared subdued around the property, fostering an unsettling quiet that prickled the skin on Kate's arms. I'm seeing recent footprints, Donovan observed, indicating clear marks in the yielding ground close to the porch steps. Multiple sets, some arriving, some departing. Kate bent down to study a well-defined print. This matches the tread pattern from Jason's hiking boots, based on the girlfriend's description. He was certainly here. Adhering to the established procedures for entering potentially occupied buildings during search operations, Donovan drew his service weapon, maintaining a safe downward-pointing position. He repeated, Sheriff's Department. We are entering to search the premises. The front door emitted a concerning creak as Donovan pushed it open. The interior was dimly lit, the scant daylight that penetrated through the cloudy, Undamaged windows illuminated a foyer characterized by peeling wallpaper and a dust-covered wooden floor. Remarkably, the furniture was still present. A discolored mirror leaned askew on one wall, and a former elegant side table sat beneath it, its surface covered in debris. The air inside was chilly and damp, carrying the stale odor of prolonged desertion combined with something else, something less definable, something more recent. Shadow moved carefully into the foyer, his nose working constantly, head turning to register each room extending from the central space. Deviating from his typical approach, he appeared hesitant to move forward, remaining uncommonly near Kate. Living room clear, Donovan stated, inspecting the initial doorway on their right. The connected dining room and kitchen also displayed indications of emptiness, although nothing presented an immediate cause for worry, simply decades of dust, dislodged plaster, and the minor remnants left by wildlife seeking refuge. Kate noticed someone had been present, observing the kitchen table's relatively clean spots where dust had been recently moved, and noting an empty modern water bottle in one corner. Their attention then shifted to a door located beneath the main staircase, which is when Shadow's demeanor changed significantly. The Malinois halted suddenly, his body becoming rigid as he focused on the closed door. A low growl emanated from his throat. "Basement access," Donovan stated softly. Kate observed a detail overlooked during their first search. Tiny symbols were etched into the door frame, abstract designs that seemed intentional, not mere random damage. Comparable markings were present on the floor at the threshold, subtle lines scratched into the aged wood. "These are new," she stated, bending down to inspect them, "and they're all around the door, almost as if, like a boundary or a warning," Donovan concluded. Shadow's growl intensified, his gaze firmly fixed on the basement door. Throughout 3 years of searches, building clearances, and tracking operations, Kate had never witnessed her partner exhibit such intense apprehension. Kate encountered Shadow during a difficult period in her career. Following 8 years in military police, including 2 deployments to Afghanistan, she joined the Pinewood County Sheriff's Department, anticipating a less demanding role. Her initial 2 years of service concluded with a tragic, unsuccessful attempt to locate a 4-year-old who had strayed from a campsite. The child's remains were discovered several days later, just half a mile from an area that had already been searched. This experience significantly damaged her self-assurance. Sheriff Donovan encouraged her to focus on growth instead of withdrawing, and he offered her a K-9 unit application. During training, she encountered a lean Belgian Malinois. The dog's evaluation noted high intelligence but difficulty in management, along with exceptional search aptitude and inconsistent responses to commands. The trainer stated that Shadow's intensity made him unsuitable for most handlers. Rescued from abuse at 10 months of age, the previous owner had employed harsh training techniques, essentially torture. Their partnership started with challenges. A significant turning point occurred during a night exercise when Kate fell and sustained a head injury. Instead of returning to base as instructed, Shadow remained with her throughout the night, subsequently leading her along the simplest route back, accommodating her uneven steps. Now, gazing at the basement door with its unusual markings, Kate remembered Fletcher's advice about heeding a dog's instincts even when the reason wasn't clear. Shadow wasn't simply providing an alert, he was conveying a particular message regarding what lay beyond that entrance. "I'm going to trust my partner," she told Donovan, placing her hand reassuringly on Shadow's back. "If he thinks there's something important down there, we need to find out what it is." The basement door resisted initially, then yielded with a groan of protesting hinges. Stale air surged upward, carrying the distinct mineral scent of underground spaces mixed with something less identifiable, a sharp, almost metallic undertone that made Kate's nose wrinkle. Donovan observed a temperature drop as noticeably colder air surrounded them. "Feels like 15 degrees cooler down there," he remarked. A narrow, wooden staircase led down into darkness. Kate turned on her tactical flashlight, the beam illuminating a dirt floor roughly 8 feet below. Shadow remained alert, but didn't show any eagerness to descend. This was unusual for a dog typically keen to lead the way during searches. The basement proved more expansive than Kate anticipated, stretching under the complete area of the house. Stone foundation walls upheld the structure above, with hand-hewn wooden pillars offering extra support at consistent intervals. In contrast to the comparatively undisturbed upper floor, the basement displayed indications of more recent use. Someone has been using this space, Kate noted, aiming her light beam toward a contemporary camping lantern positioned on a weathered wooden crate. Close by, a sleeping bag was carefully rolled beside a small backpack. "Search team, this is Donovan," the sheriff spoke into his radio. "We've located possible belongings of the missing hiker in an abandoned structure. Request additional units at our GPS coordinates." Only Static answered him. They systematically documented the scene, photographing the items with their phones. The backpack contained energy bars, a first aid kit, and a well-worn trail map of Blackwater Ridge with handwritten annotations. A notebook close at hand contained puzzling notes. The last one was dated the day Jason vanished. "Returning inside today, assuming the stories about this location are accurate, I should possess evidence that cannot be questioned." Shadow, who had been examining the room's boundaries while staying near Kate, abruptly tensed, his focus fixed on the distant wall. Kate instantly understood his stance, the identical alert posture he adopted when locating concealed objects during evidence searches. Shadow informed Donovan, who had been studying markings on a support pillar. The wall that had attracted Shadow's attention seemed unremarkable initially, consisting of roughly hewn stone blocks. However, as Kate drew nearer, her flashlight illuminated slight variations in the mortar arrangement approximately halfway along its length. Working together, they scrutinized the wall section meticulously, ultimately finding a skillfully hidden device, a jutting stone that, when pushed in, disengaged a latch. Accompanied by a soft scraping noise, a portion of the wall, roughly 3 feet in width, swung inward, exposing a narrow passage on the other side. This passage led to a circular room, approximately 15 feet in diameter, with a floor of fitted stone slabs. The walls displayed faded inscriptions, unknown script, and elaborate geometric designs. A stone table, appearing like an altar and bearing a dark stain, was positioned in the center. 7 candles formed a perfect circle around it, 3 of which had recently been lit, showing soft wax. The items placed on the altar were particularly unsettling: a driver's license, watch, and cell phone Kate recognized from the missing person report. These were Jason's belongings, and she documented them with photographs, careful not to move anything. The question remained, where was he? Shadow's anxiety became apparent as he moved around the room. He moved toward the altar, then retreated, conflicted by his investigative training and an intense feeling of reluctance. Kate's flashlight wavered, then noticeably weakened. Donovan's did the same. A subtle hum resonated from the walls, intensifying until Kate felt it vibrating within her. The temperature dropped sharply, their exhaled breath appearing as frosty vapor. Shadow's actions changed significantly. He settled against Kate's legs, forming a protective posture, his gaze directed at an empty corner, his fur bristling. Rather than his usual forceful barking when facing danger, he remained quietly watchful. "We must leave," Kate stated, relying on Shadow's judgment. Immediately, as they moved back, Kate's weakening light revealed one last detail: a recently inscribed name etched into the altar's edge. Beneath those others faded with time: Jason Reeves. Upon exiting the concealed room, Donovan attempted to use his radio, but it only produced the same peculiar static. Kate examined her phone. There was no signal, and the battery had dropped from 85% to 17% during their short time in the basement. A gentle thud from the level above halted them at the foot of the staircase, followed by the clear sound of footsteps on aging, creaking floorboards. "Someone's up there," Kate murmured, drawing her sidearm. The missing hiker could be this person. The main floor seemed unoccupied as they carefully exited the basement. Daylight had faded considerably. Checking her watch, she realized they had been inside for fewer than 40 minutes, but the light suggested late afternoon, not midday. Shadow suddenly became alert, his focus drawn to a small secretary desk in the corner that they hadn't previously inspected closely. The roll top of the desk had been opened, showing a stack of leather-bound journals almost neatly arranged inside. The topmost volume lay open, its pages filled with handwritten text that seemed surprisingly new compared to the old paper. Kate studied the open page, feeling a sudden chill unrelated to the basement's dampness. The writing detailed names and dates of people who've disappeared in these woods. The journal entries originated in 1893 and were written at inconsistent intervals throughout the years. Certain names were accompanied by supplemental information, including ages, occupations, and details regarding disappearances. Kate identified several entries referencing unsolved missing persons cases she had become familiar with after joining the department. Particularly unsettling was the last entry, concerning Jason Reeves, which bore yesterday's date and a specific time. 3:17 p.m. Shadow abruptly growled, turning to confront the doorway. Moments passed, then a significant crash echoed from the upper floor, indicating furniture was being knocked over or displaced. Sheriff's Department, Donovan announced, approaching the foot of the central staircase. Identify yourself immediately. Only silence responded, accompanied by another crash, this time directly above them. Plaster dust drifted down from the ceiling. The staircase creaked under their cautious ascent, weapons drawn. The upper hallway split into 4 rooms, the doors showing different levels of damage. Shadow guided them toward the closest entrance, his carefulness apparent in each measured step. The bedroom inside looked untouched initially, featuring a 4-poster bed with a decaying mattress, a wardrobe against one wall, and faded curtains still present at the windows. Then Kate observed the wardrobe doors gradually opening, despite the absence of any breeze or disruption that might cause the movement. Deputy Chen's voice abruptly broke through their radios, startling them both. Sheriff, come in. We've been trying to reach you for over an hour. Donovan pressed his transmit button. Chun, we're inside a structure approximately 2 miles northwest of the backpack location. Possible evidence of the missing hiker found. Sir, we can barely read you. Signals breaking up. Do you need assistance? Affirmative. Track our GPS coordinates. Approach with caution. Kate went to the window, hoping to spot the approaching search team from afar. However, she stopped, stunned by the scene before her. The area around the house appeared altered. The forest seemed nearer, thicker, the trees leaning inward, as if the woods had somehow moved closer while they were inside. A floorboard groaned behind them, though neither had shifted. Shadow turned toward the noise, positioning himself between Kate and the vacant corner of the room. The temperature plummeted rapidly, their breath visible in the suddenly frigid air. As if to emphasize her statement, a door slammed somewhere down the hallway, then another. The sound of footsteps, numbering more than one person could manage, reverberated from several directions at once. We retreated the way we had come, Donovan decided, moving toward the bedroom door, only to discover it was closed, despite neither of them having touched it. Kate grasped the doorknob, finding it intensely cold. The door rotated without obstruction, yet remained unyielding, as if a significant force held it back from the hallway. Donovan proposed examining the window, and immediately moved towards it. The old frame initially resisted his attempt to lift the sash, but then yielded with a scattering of paint chips and debris. A blast of cold rain rushed in, bringing with it the fragrance of damp soil and pine. Shadow's growl intensified, his attention still directed towards the apparently vacant corner of the room. Kate had grown accustomed to relying on her partner's instincts, especially when they sensed threats she couldn't identify. Whatever was in that corner registered as dangerous to the Malinois. Kate secured her sidearm and proceeded cautiously as a forceful impact rattled the bedroom door. The old wood fractured but remained intact. A second impact splintered the frame along one side. The fall to the ground outside was roughly 12 feet, negotiable but potentially hazardous. Kate descended from the sill, using her hands to lower herself and minimize the drop to the muddy earth below. She landed unevenly but sustained no injuries, quickly arranging herself to be in shadow. Donovan raised the Malinois, who appeared remarkably compliant with the handling, reinforcing Kate's sense that the dog detected significant danger within. Shadow permitted himself to be passed through the window, his 65 pounds of muscle momentarily suspended before Donovan released him to Kate below. Another crash originated from inside the bedroom, followed by Donovan's startled shout. Kate looked up to observe the sheriff struggling with the window sash, which had unexpectedly slammed down, nearly trapping his hands. "Something's got it," he called, straining against the seemingly immovable window. Shadow barked sharply, not an alert for danger, but his specific call for Kate's attention. The Malinois was focused on a point at the corner of the house, where weathered clapboards met in a seam that appeared to be separating unnaturally, revealing darkness beyond. "Sheriff, another exit," Kate called up to Donovan. "Meet me at the front of the house." Kate drew her weapon again, using her flashlight to illuminate the darkened passage beyond the open doors. Rough-hewn stone steps descended into darkness. The air rising from below held the same metallic odor they'd noticed in the basement. Shadow seemed to want her to go down, but everything she's felt in the house cautioned against returning. The dog whimpered, scratching at the initial step, his eagerness unmistakable. "Kate," Donovan's voice called from somewhere near the front of the house. "Where are you?" Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from inside the house, the clear sound of a structural failure. Dust puffed out from an upstairs window as a portion of the roof collapsed. Shadow's fur stood on end, a soft growl vibrating in his chest, aimed not at the cellar entrance behind them, but toward the sound of Donovan's voice. A chilling sense of conviction settled in Kate's stomach. "That's not the sheriff," she whispered, completely believing Shadow's judgment. The dog maintained its position, preventing anyone or anything from approaching from around the corner. Kate retreated towards the cellar entrance, keeping her weapon aimed at the side of the building. Shadow followed her, continuing his protective posture. The constricted tunnel stretched roughly 20 feet before leading into what seemed to be a mechanical room, containing antiquated, rusted machinery indicative of a coal furnace system from the house's initial construction. This area, in contrast to the basement they had explored previously, exhibited no indications of recent activity. A door on the distant wall likely linked to the main basement. Kate bypassed it, opting to follow Shadow toward a section of foundation wall that had partially collapsed. The Malinois readily passed through the opening, appearing outside into thick underbrush that had hidden this gap from view. "Sheriff Donovan, come in." Kate tried on her radio, but only received static. She trailed Shadow roughly 50 yards through thick foliage before daring to look back towards the house. Through openings in the trees, she observed its outline. The partially collapsed roof was now releasing smoke despite the heavy rain. Even more unsettling was the movement she noticed at several windows, with shadows moving across them, despite the fact that they had discovered no other people inside. "Kate," the authentic voice of Sheriff Donovan interrupted her focus on the house. He appeared from the trees to her right, soaked and muddied, but seemingly unharmed. "Thank God, I thought you were still inside." Shadow's reaction verified this was truly Donovan. The dog's posture softened, his tail giving a quick wag of recognition. "How did you escape?" Kate inquired, observing a bleeding cut along the sheriff's hairline. "The back staircase gave way while he was on it," he recounted, resulting in him ending up in some kind of root cellar. He found a storm door leading out, and then he paused, seemingly having difficulty expressing his experience. Something was present with him inside, not a person, at least not anymore. Shadow abruptly tensed, his focus returning to the house in the distance. Kate followed his gaze, observing what seemed to be several figures exiting the front door. They were obscured by the rain and fading light, but clearly advancing purposefully toward their position. "We need to go," she stated, her strategic mind rapidly assessing their choices. The primary objective was to extract safely and redirect backup teams away from the house. After 20 minutes of consistent travel, they arrived at the ridge line, offering a view of the valley where the house was situated. From their high vantage point, they observed several flashlight beams in the distance, indicating the search teams were closing in, following their last known coordinates. "We need to stop them before they reach the house," Donovan stated, attempting his radio once more. This time, Deputy Torres responded clearly. "Sheriff, we've been trying to reach you for hours." "Listen carefully," Donovan replied. "Do not approach the structure at these coordinates. I repeat, do not approach." We are maneuvering to block your team's advance from the ridge line north of your current location. Within an hour, they had successfully met up with the search teams and created a security zone half a mile from the house. As full darkness enveloped the forest, the decision was reached to pause operations until morning. The missing hiker, Jason Reeves, was still not found. A flickering light appeared through the trees, not a consistent beam from a flashlight, but the shifting appearance of flames. The house, despite the pouring rain, was now completely consumed by fire, the glow still visible from their location. 1 month later, Kate's office wall showcased an expanding array of photographs, maps, and notes linked by red string, representing her personal inquiry. Jason Reeves remained listed as missing with no new information. The formal search continued for 2 weeks, involving numerous agencies, cadaver dogs, and ground-penetrating radar covering 10 square miles. The search yielded no results, no body was discovered, nor any further evidence besides the peculiar house that had burned completely to its foundation before firefighters arrived. Kate attached a newspaper clipping from 1922 to her board, detailing the destruction of Old Blackwater House in a fire that claimed the lives of 7 members of the Thorne family. The article mentioned local beliefs that the property had been plagued by misfortune since it was built. Her phone rang. "Morgan, this is Torres. Regarding the research you asked for, 16 disappearances have been recorded within a 5-mile radius of Blackwater Ridge, a number 3 times higher than what's typically seen in comparable wilderness areas. Any patterns?" Kate inquired. The disappearances tend to occur in clusters of 3 or 4 individuals within a few months, followed by years of no further incidents. Has anyone ever been located? Only one person. A Forest Service worker was discovered wandering along Highway 16 3 months later in 1978. He had no recollection of his whereabouts and was malnourished, but sustained no other injuries. Following the phone call, Kate added the details to her board while Shadow stood beside her, his gaze fixed on the photograph of the house foundation. "What did you perceive there?" she inquired softly. Shadow immediately growled, his focus directed at the window where darkness now filled the view. Kate observed a fleeting movement in the tree line, the shadows seeming distorted. She swiftly lowered the blinds, spotting a manila envelope on the exterior windowsill, a package that couldn't be reached without a ladder from her second-floor office. A single photograph lay within, showing Jason Reeves positioned in front of the undamaged Blackwater house, his expression unreadable, bearing a timestamp 3 days following their investigation. Written on the reverse in elegant handwriting was the phrase, "The house always returns. So do we." Shadow brushed against her legs as a shiver traced its way down her spine. Outside, limbs scraped against the structure, sounding like searching fingers. For the first time in her professional life, Kate wished that certain enigmas would remain beyond resolution. Have you ever observed your pet responding to something imperceptible that prompted a feeling of unease? Animals demonstrate senses extending beyond human capabilities. They perceive frequencies beyond our hearing range, scent traces too subtle for us to notice, and possibly energies that science has yet to explain. What could your dog or cat be perceiving when they abruptly pause, focusing intensely on a vacant area of your home? Do you consider that some locations retain echoes of previous occurrences that certain perceptive animals are able to detect? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section. We are eager to read your stories. If this puzzling cold case gave you chills, remember to click the subscribe button and enable notifications to stay updated with our regular uploads about remarkable dog stories. Give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more unsolved mysteries, and share it with those who value the unique capabilities of our canine friends. Be sure to view our additional unexplained canine encounters currently displaying. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, with another brand new video that explores the remarkable world of working dogs and the mysteries they help us uncover.